this guy, right? So, how many of you have had a really good idea? Like something that you really felt like, oh man, that's it, right? That's that light bulb moment, right? And then you're so eager, because you think about it, right? You're playing it out in your head. You're so eager to tell someone, right? You got to share this idea because it's just brewing in your mind. So you share this idea with maybe your friends, maybe a co-worker, parent, whatever, teacher, whoever it may be, right? You share this great idea that you have because you're so into it. You know that this would work. You know that you put your whole heart into it. And that person, their response when you give them this idea is right? How many of you had that? Yeah? How many of you had that response? Now, what's that? Does anybody know what that response means? Anybody? Nothing's going to happen. Yeah. That's what that is, right? Ah, that ain't going to happen. That wouldn't work. There's no way you can do that. You don't have the skill set to do that. You look where you live. Can you do that? Or look how much money you don't have. Can you do that? Or look at your parents and the situation they're in. You can't do that, right? It's that, right? What does that make you feel like when someone does that? Anybody tell me? Doubtful, right? So doubtful means you kind of recluse, right? You kind of pull back in, and you say, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe that was stupid. Why did I think that was a good idea? Right? They're right, right? I'm poor. I come from a poor family. I have a broken home. I live in a crap neighborhood. I have bad grades. Whatever. I can't do it. They're right. That was stupid. Right? That's what you think. But I think we all know that deep down inside, even though you pushed it, you buried that, right? And you said, oh, that was embarrassing. They made fun of me in their own way. They doubted me. So I'm going to doubt myself. But you don't get rid of it. You push it down, right? You push it down inside, and you bury it with other crap. But the point is, what that is, that thing that we're talking about, that's buried deep down inside, is passion. Okay? Passion. I want you to remember that word because it's going to be used in a lot of this. I have a really good friend, a mentor that we used to do a lot of public speaking together. He's actually a public speaker for a living. His name is Chad D. Malone. Check him out. But I always remember a quote that I live by every single day that he taught me. And that is, passion creates results. Passion creates results. Okay? So let's go back to that passion. That's what that feeling is that you bury deep down inside because that person said, shh. Right? Now, I don't know how you spell shh. Okay? But we're going to start with a P, even though it probably comes with S. But we'll start with P. All right? Now, we'll go ahead and we'll make the next letter A. We're going to put it down. All right? So put A. All right? What do you think A is? Anybody guess? Any guesses? Well, I can tell you, even though you're thinking it's, I would say academics, it's not. Even though that's important. Don't get me wrong. It's having ambition. You guys know what ambition is? It's having drive, having energy to move forward. Whether there's a struggle ahead of you or not. Whether there's a barrier in front of you or not. If you have ambition, you can come over it. Right? You can overcome that hurdle. So, we have passion deep down inside that's blocked. But we also have ambition. That ambition is going to push that passion up. right? So that passion's coming up, okay? Because you're using ambition. If you're using ambition, you're pushing the passion up, which would result in, does anybody know? What would the next word be? Nobody knows? It starts with S. Nobody? Success. We get success. Okay? So now we have P-A-S. Okay? Up, we're missing one letter. Right? Because now you're successful in whatever that passion that you had in your heart. That someone pushed you down, and you said, no, I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to be driven. I'm going to be ambitious, and I'm going to make this happen. And I'm going to do the opposite of what they say. Now, I'm not saying defy the rules, but what I'm saying is think outside of the rules. Right? It doesn't mean break the rules. It means sometimes you got to make your own rules. You got to make your own way. Right? All right, so now you get to that point where you're successful. Let me ask you, just get a few answers here. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but name a career. Somebody, anybody, what do you want to be when you grow up, or here in a few years when you're out on your own? What career do you want to do? Anybody? What was that, brother? Conservationist. Okay. Anybody else? What was it? I'm sorry. Flight attendant. I'm sorry. The mask is really getting into. Flight attendant. Okay. Anybody from over here? Okay. So all of those things require work, right? How long does it take to go to school for that?
8 years.
8 years. That's awesome. Now, I'm just going to take a wild guess here. I'm sure when you've told maybe one or two people before what your idea was, they're like, 8 years? You want to go to school for 8 years? You can go here and work at this factory and be there working tomorrow, right? Did you have people tell you something similar to that?
Yeah, pretty much more about the conference school done.
Okay, so what is that? That's where people are trying to push that passion that you have down, right? So then he becomes ambitious and he says, no, I'm not going to listen to what you say. I'm going to do it anyways because this is what my passion is. So he does it, and let's say 8 years from now or whenever this is all done, said and done for you, when you reach that goal, whenever that's said and done, you're successful, right? That's what we all try to achieve, right? Is success. But there's one letter missing from this, right? That's the word, that's H. Anybody guess what the letter H stands for in this acronym? Anybody? Humility. That's the tough one. Humility. So once you have that success that you've been trying to get, that you're chasing after in your career, in your passion, you have to come to a point of humility. A point where you have to understand that yes, you're doing what you love to do, and you met your goal, and you went against all the odds, right? But you're still a student. There's still always going to be someone better at you than and the career that you're doing. So you have to be a student. You have to be humble. You have to be that fact of humility so you can keep learning and be better and do better and keep reaching those goals. Okay? So the reason I started with all that is I wanted to tell you the reason that I'm here today is because of those things. Passion, ambition, success, and humility. All stages that I've had to go through and keep going through again. I'm 35 years old and I'm still going through those every day. I have to remind myself of a lot of those. Okay? But I'm going to start off, we're going to go back and rewind here because I'm going to give you guys a little feedback. They're not feedback, a little backstory of my own life. If you didn't know or couldn't tell, I'm not originally from here or this area. I stand out of the bit sometimes. I'm originally from Indianapolis, so I was born and raised up there. How many people have ever lived in Indianapolis? Anybody? Oh, there's what? Probably 5 or 6 of you, please. Okay, so Indianapolis is a beautiful city, but Indianapolis also has a pretty ugly side to it as well. Unfortunately, growing up in Indianapolis, I was one of the people that grew up in the neighborhoods that were not so well off. Most of the people that lived in my neighborhood were pretty poor, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I say that we grew up in the ghetto, I don't really mean that in bragging like I'm a rapper kind of terms. I mean like we grew up in the ghetto because we were poor, we didn't have any money. That didn't mean anything cool. Actually, everybody that grew up in my neighborhood would lie to people in school our addresses and tell them we lived them in the Highlands or whatever, because we was ashamed. But growing up poor taught me a lot of things. It taught me to be resourceful. It taught me that the only person that was going to help me, truly help me, was me at the end of the day. Now, you have counsel, you have teachers, you have faculty, you have people in the community, hopefully your parents, hopefully your family. But those people, at the end of the day, they really put the decision on you. They put the decision on you to say, okay, are you going to do this, or are you going to walk away? Or are you just going to let it beat you down, right? So me growing up in this neighborhood really young, we moved into that neighborhood when I was in first grade. And I remember back then, which is crazy to think about now, but back then I remember walking to school in second grade in the middle of Indianapolis, in the ghetto. People wouldn't even dare do that now as kids. But back then it was different. But I remember at an early age, second grade, looking around this neighborhood that I grew up in and thinking, this is normal. Everybody lives like this. Because this, as a child, is what I knew. This was my surroundings. This is my atmosphere. So to me, this was normal. And to me, seeing people go to prison every day, seeing people die of overdoses, seeing young teenage mothers that, had nothing, but they were doing their best to get by. I seen that every day as a young kid. I seen drug addicts on the street. I seen drive-bys. I seen houses get raided. I seen all of that as a young child. But to me, that was normal. That was every day, because every other kid that was in my class seen the same thing I did. The same thing I did. So I remember looking around and thinking, why everybody I know is their parents in prison? Why is everybody I know missing a parent or their grandparents in prison? And I remember looking around all these buildings and thinking, why are all these buildings abandoned? But I, just like any other teenager probably, I fell into that same routine. I fell into that lifestyle because it was fun. It was interesting to me. And to be honest with you, they showed me attention. Yeah, so the people I'm talking about was this gang that was in the neighborhood, and they knew I liked spray paint. I love spray paint. I still love spray paint. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? But they knew I liked to write my name on the wall. They said, hey, we need somebody to tag. I don't know if you guys know what tag means, but that means I'd take a spray paint can, and back then, what it meant, should I say, I'd take a spray paint can and I would tag our gang sign in other gang character. Okay? Now, that seems completely harmless, and then looking back, it's almost childish games. But the thing of it was basically, I mean, it's kind of a crazy way to put it, but it's basically when a dog goes and pees on another dog's telephone pole, right? Where another dog already peed, right? How many times you watch your dog, and that dog is peed on every telephone pole all the way down the street? Like, first off, how do you even have it? But that's the same way. They were peeing on territories, right? So anyways, that comes with a little bit of a collateral damage. They don't like that. It makes them upset, so they retaliate. They come back at you, they jump you, they rob your house, they steal your cars. They do whatever they can. They try to take you, call the police, whatever. So anyways, at a young age, I joined this gang. I think I was 10, 11 years old, probably 11 years old. And I just thought it was harmless because all I was doing was painting, right? Like really, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but really, in my mind, I'm just painting. I'm not shooting up someone's house. I'm not stealing someone's car. I would never do that. I paint. Well, I did. I was doing stuff like that. I was doing stuff that I swore that I wouldn't do, and I'll tell you why. And it's not an excuse. This is my honest way of thinking. Well, this is how I'm going to end up anyways, right? I'm going to end up in jail, or I'm going to end up in prison, or I'm going to die, or I'm going to be a drug dealer. That's how it's going to go. So I might as well get my start now, right? I might as well get an early start, and I can be really good at one of those things. I don't know which one, but I'm going to try my best at one of them, right? So I just totally went down the wrong path. I ended up getting arrested multiple times, okay? I will attest, only for graffiti, okay? Only got arrested for graffiti. Because I was always painting on walls that weren't mine. I get it now. Here's somebody else's wall, okay? You're not supposed to do that. Don't paint other people's walls, okay? You can lose your driver's license. But anyways, but what I'm saying is I was painting, but I know it sounds bad because you're thinking, oh man, this kid, he joins a gang, he starts doing all this bad stuff, but there's something good that came from it, believe it or not. And this is where we're going to pull something good out of a really negative situation. I learned graffiti. And you're thinking, oh, cool, you learned to draw, but you were stealing cars and breaking into people's houses. Okay, it came with a little bit of a tuition cost, right? But I learned graffiti, which graffiti ended up saving my life. And I'll tell you how. So I go on, I do graffiti, I'm running around the gang, I'm doing everything. I'm literally the worst teenager a parent can have. Now I have kids, I'm just praying to God that he forgives me. But anyways, I go to juvenile, I end up going to boys' school. I calculated it one day, and I spent a lot of time as a child locked up. And on paper, it was because I was painting on buildings in places I shouldn't have been, right? But the reason really was, is because I had a passion deep down inside that people were telling me that I couldn't do, but I knew that I wanted to do. Now, not saying that just because you have a passion, if it's illegal, it's okay to do. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is if you have a passion and people are opposing it, figure out a positive way to do it. If it's a positive way, run with it. Do it. So deep down inside, I knew I wanted to do graffiti. I knew I wanted to do art. And I knew I needed a way to figure this out. Right? Okay. Now, let me tell you about this just real quick because this goes into it all. At the same time where I'm drawing graffiti, I'm running around this gang, I'm getting arrested all the time, I had a horrible home life. It was a mess. It was a mess all the time. There was a lot of alcoholism, a lot of drugs, a lot of physical and mental abuse. And that's what we lived with. But knowing the kids that I knew and the neighborhood I grew up in, everybody was the same way. As crazy as that sounds, it was normal. It's not normal, but it seemed normal, right? So, growing up in the midst of that, my escape was art, right? I drew all the time. How many of you here draw or paint or any of? Okay, so if you draw and you're really passionate about it, that was everything to me. So every time I had a chance, I was drawing. I was on the playground drawing. I was at recess. At any time, lunch drawing, school, class, I was drawing. I didn't do my work. I just draw all the time. And on the playground, I would have a box of markers, and I'd have 4 or 5 kids lined up. This is 3rd grade. 2nd or 3rd grade, I started doing this. Every recess, I'd have 4 or 5 kids lined up, and I'd draw fake tattoos on them. Do you know why? Because I wanted to be a tattoo artist when I grew up. Okay? So in 3rd grade, I had a teacher say, hey, we need you to write a 4-sentence paragraph and draw a picture of what you want to be when you grow up. Everybody in the class, about 30 kids, right? So I did. And I drew somebody getting drawn on to make it look like they're getting a tattoo. Right? I think I spelled tattoo T-A-T-U. Tattoo. But anyways, I drew it, I did my best, I took it up there, I put it on the teacher's desk. And the teacher looks at it, and she looks at me, and dead serious. She looks at me and she says, I'm going to give you a chance to either redo the assignment, or I'm going to have to give you an F. And I'm in 3rd grade, remember? Okay. So I remember I looked at her, and I was like, but I did the assignment. I think I have 4 sentences. The spelling might be a little bit bad, but I did what you said. And she said, no, you have to pick a real career. I said, really? So I grabbed the paper, and I went back to my desk. And I added more color to the tattoos and more detail, because I just needed more. And I didn't change anything on it. And I took it back to her desk. And she took her marker and wrote a big fat F all the way across the paper and handed it back to me. Now, that's the moment where I had a passion deep down inside of me. And I could have easily just said, screw it. Screw that dream, because it can't be done, because it's not a real career. Right? That's what I was just told by my teacher. Right? So I walk back to my desk, I sit down, I'm probably 3 or 4 rows back, and I have this paper in front of me, and I look down at it, and I look back at the teacher. And this is 3rd grade, okay, so I look back on it now, this is a pretty profound thought. But I remember it very clearly. I looked back at that teacher, and I stared at her like this, eyes of death. You all had it, you all done it, I know you have, okay? But I stared at her, and I thought to myself, that's the last time someone's going to tell me I can't do art the way I want to do it. That's the last time someone told me I can't do art. So, it was. That was the last time someone told me I couldn't do art. I was determined at that moment that I was going to be a tattoo artist. At 3rd grade, I didn't know how. I didn't know if to go to college. I didn't know none of that. I didn't know none of it. But I knew, because this teacher said that I couldn't, oh, you messed up. You just put fuel on the fire. Because that just made me want to do it more. And that's where that ambition comes in, right? So they put the fuel on the fire, I went with it. I burned everything I could in front of me, right? So anyways, I get arrested and I go through all this chaos and I go down the wrong path, but the whole time I still have this passion inside to be an artist and do art and just show my art to the world. Okay, so at 18 years old, I am painting the back of a building illegally. Okay, not proud of it, just saying, illegally. And a guy jumps out of the back of the building. The guy's the owner of the building, his barbershop. And I'm grabbing my stuff. I'm grabbing my cans and I'm about to run because I know how this works. I've been through this routine before. Cherries and berries about to pull up, I know it. And he says, stop. I said, no, I know what's going on. I know how this works. He said, no. He said, I'll pay you. And he pulls out a lot of money. Now, growing up poor, $5 ones would have been a lot of money to me, so I really don't even know how much money it was, but it was money, okay? So I was like, whoa, got my attention. He said, I will pay you to paint my logo on the front of my building with graffiti, just like you done here, and I'll let you finish the graffiti you're doing here. I was like, you ain't gonna call the cops, right? I'm still worried about the cops showing up. Anyways, so I do it, he pays me, and I'm just picking up my cans. I think I was doing a couple highlights, and this black Cadillac pulls up. This is a few days later. Black Cadillac pulls up. This big guy comes out. He says, "Hey, you painting that?" I said, "Hey, I got permission. You can talk to the guy in there. Don't call the cops." He said, "No." He said, "You're the only one painting." I was like, "I got permission." I said, "Yeah, I'm the only one." He said, "Cool." He said, I got a business right down the road here. I want you to do something like that with my shop's name on the front. I was like, what? He's like, and I'll pay you. What? You gonna pay me to do it? So here we go, right? Let's go back. People telling you, you can't do that. Where you're from, you can't do that, right? And I was getting arrested for graffiti because I was doing it the wrong way. It wasn't that I was doing graffiti, I was doing it the wrong way, right? But anyways, I go down to this tattoo shop, where it ends up being a tattoo shop, is what it is. And I pull up on my bicycle. Yeah, I was 18 on a bicycle, I was 4, okay? Don't hate me. But anyways, so I pull up on my bicycle and I look across the street. I said, nope, ain't doing that. No, I ain't setting myself up to play. I'm not doing that. I'm not. That's a tattoo shop. These are artists. They've been doing it for years, probably longer than I've been learning. I ain't doing it. But this gut feeling inside me, you know what that gut feeling, anybody know what that is? What's that A word? Anybody know? Ambition. That ambition inside of me said, do it. Do it. So I went across the street, talked to the guy, he tells me what he wants to do. I was so nervous. So nervous. And I start the next day, start doing the whole mural. And about later on that afternoon, he comes out and he sits against his car and he stares at it. Doesn't say a word to me. This is a pretty big guy. He's pretty intimidating looking, you know. I'm a little big guy. I was like, oh, he hates it. I bombed it. This is my one opportunity, I bombed it. He didn't say a word for probably an hour. I was tripping. I ain't gonna lie, guys. I was really thinking of how fast can I pack my backpack and run and get on my bike before he'd catch me. You know what I mean? I wanted to run away. I wanted to run away from the situation because I was unsure of myself. Because everybody told me that I couldn't do it before, right? So anyways, he finally comes over there when we're done and he says, I got one question for you. I was like, oh. God, here we go. He's probably going to say, you got white paint to cover it up? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm like, man, it's going to be really hard. But I was like, yeah. I remember I did this. I just put down my shoes. I was like, yeah, what's up? You know, just waiting for it. He said, you ever thought about tattooing? Yeah, my whole life. My whole life, man. I said, but I ain't got money for college. I'm poor. He said, you ain't got to have that. You learn an apprenticeship. You learn a trade. Anybody know what an apprenticeship is? You know what an apprenticeship is? It's where you learn a trade. You follow somebody that's doing something. You learn how to do it. And then you not replace them, but you do the same thing they're doing, right? You learn that skill through them, not at college. Okay? But anyways, I meet him there that next Monday. And I start my apprenticeship on how to tattoo. Now, naively, I thought that meant I just start tattooing people immediately, but that's not how it worked. I had to start with mopping the floors, changing trash. Back then we had steel tubes. We'd have to clean the tubes by hand, put them in sterilizers. It sucked. It really did. And I remember thinking, this isn't what I signed up for. I signed up to be a tattoo artist. I didn't sign up to be a janitor. I didn't sign up to be a receptionist. I don't answer phones, right? I was 18, going on 19, and I already had an attitude because I had reached the S. I had reached the success part, okay? Now, what I mean by the success part was I was still an apprentice, I was still learning, but what I mean is I had reached my goal of learning the tattoo. So I already had this attitude that I didn't need to learn anymore because I made it to where I needed to be, right? And so then I started getting this ego. Oh, well, I don't have to do this, I have to do this. So me and the owner started butting heads, blah, blah. We go our separate ways. But tattooing, graffiti, all of that just kept with me, it kept going, okay? So then, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this is where it gets a little bit crazy. All right, it gets a little bit deeper here. I started going into a spiral because I knew that was my passion. I knew art was my love, but I gave it up because of a lot of bad decisions. One, ego, because I lost my humility. Two, because drugs and partying sounded like a funner option at the time, which it wasn't. It was a horrible option. But I thought it was a funner option. So I decided to go that route. And it seemed a little bit easier, you know, with drugs and partying, you don't have to work, right? But the problem is with drugs and partying is you have to work even harder after it's all said and done, right? To get that back, to get your respect back, okay? So anyways, I go through this drugs and partying phase, and I go really deep off into it and start getting in that lifestyle. But what happens when you get in that lifestyle, you can't afford to live that lifestyle, right? So you have to start making ends meet. So I start dealing drugs and using drugs at the same time. Got really bad, to the point my anxiety, depression just went through the roof. And I finally, right about 2007, my oldest brother, I woke up one Saturday morning to a phone call from my other brother and said that my oldest brother had committed suicide the night before. He had hung himself. He was high on heroin. He hung himself. Now, me being his little brother, you would think that that moment I would say, I'm never touching another drug again, right? I'm never doing that again. But me being the idiot that I am, I went the opposite way. I dove deeper, spiraled way out of control. Ended up getting really bad off. I attempted suicide 5 times in a year and a half, all 5 times for clinical visits. Ended up in the emergency room, pumped my stomach a few times. I was declared dead twice. Because, this is going to sound crazy, but if you've ever dealt with depression, and I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room that has, if we're all being real, I was at that point in life where depression was so deep and it was so controlling over me that I felt the only escape was to not be there. I really thought that in my head. That's how twisted and warped I was. So 5 times in a year and a half, I tried to commit suicide. As you would guess, I ended up being committed, ended up in mental health units, lockdown units. Bloomington 5th floors are lockdown units for extreme mental health. I was in there with some of the craziest people you can imagine. I was in there with a guy that skinned himself, literally. Looked like a mummy. He was wrapped up. Okay? Now, if that doesn't teach you something, it's called humility. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I'll be the first to admit that every single one of you in this room, I deal with anxiety. I deal with depression. I battle it every day. I'm manic depressive. Okay? It's real. Don't let anybody shame you with that. Don't let anybody shame you with that. Okay? Deal with it. Learn how to deal with it. Learn how to cope. Educate yourself. Okay? But at that time, when I'm in this room and I'm in this lockdown facility with this man that looks like a mummy that just came out of a pharaoh's tomb or something because he skinned himself while he was perfectly sober. Okay, that made me realize that maybe my issues aren't as bad as I thought they were. Maybe most of my issues are from my own actions, right? Maybe some of the bad stuff that's going on because I brought that on myself. So then I started realizing, oh, this is crazy. This is not the way I want to go. So I started going into a couple years later, and I had met a good friend of mine, and he is a DJ. And he said, guess what? He said, I'm doing this Christian music circuit, and I'm going all over the United States. So I want you to come along. And I want you to come speak to people, young people like yourselves, and do painting on stage. And I said, I can't, because I have social anxiety, and I just can't do it, you know. And you guys have to understand, before this conversation, I'd actually been medicated for social anxiety to the point that I couldn't even walk into a grocery store to get groceries for my food. I would literally just not eat because of my social anxiety. That I still have problems answering the phone. My social anxiety is horrible, believe it or not, standing up there. But anyways, I was telling him that, and then some time went by, and I seen him again, and he's telling me about this again. He's going on this next tour, and he says, Kyle, I need you to come with me. You're supposed to be doing this. I just have this feeling you're supposed to be doing this. So we did it. We did it for quite a while, and it was amazing. We traveled all over, and we got to meet some amazing people all over. But this is where the game changes, right? This is where it all starts changing for me in my life, in my direction, in finding what my true calling I feel is, what my true passion is. Now, what we've been talking about this whole time is passion. So my passion was art, and always has been, right? That hasn't changed any, but I knew there was still something missing from the whole factor. I knew that it wasn't just graffiti. I knew it wasn't just tattooing. There was something. I needed something that was still the key, right? So as I started going, and I'm still tattooing on the side here and there, still doing murals. At this point, murals had opened up for me all over. I ended up getting to do murals in different states, artwork in different states. And then, I'll tell you, this is where it shifts, okay? So, I am working in a warehouse, and I'm in the back of this semi. In this semi, you have to unload them by hand. Having a really good day. It was a really good day. And I remember, this is what I call my epiphanous moment. If anybody knows what epiphanous is, it's that enlightenment, right? That moment where you're like, oh, it's clarity. I know what I'm supposed to do, right? So I'm in this semi, and this moment hits, and it says, what are you doing here? Why are you here right now? And it wasn't because I was mad or anything, or I hated my job, or that I felt like I was better than anybody, like I've done worse work. But it was that moment where I knew that this wasn't my calling. I knew that this wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be doing something more purposeful, more purpose-driven, right? So I knew what the idea was. It was in the back of my head. I wanted to create a tattoo shop that was more than a tattoo shop. Now, I don't know if any of you have been in a tattoo shop before. Some of you, I'm sure, have. But I wanted to create a shop where when people walked in, it was a community of artists that happened to have a tattoo permit to tattoo people, right? It was a studio that you could create all kinds of art, painting, aerosol, airbrush, whatever, right? But it was more than that. This is where the other part of that passion key comes in. I wanted to create a studio that was a community that gave back and was part of the community, right? Part of the community that it's in. Give back to people. Because what I was looking at was, I spent most of my life trying to use my art to destroy other people's lives, right? So why can't I take the same passion, that same drive, and use it for something good? Okay? The same way, this is an example, so if you guys have any doubt in your lives, when I was a hardcore drug addict, every morning I would wake up, I would have no money, no possessions to sell, nothing, right? But the first thought I had, how do I get high? How do I get high today? I didn't have nothing. I had nothing to get high with, okay? Nothing, literally nothing, okay? But that's the first thought I had, is how do I get high today? And you know what? By the end of that day, every single day I would end up high. Probably the whole day. Higher than a kite. Right? How, right? How? Because I had no money. I had nothing to give, blah, blah, blah. But, you know how? Because I had determination. It was just for the wrong thing. I had determination. I was determined I was going to get high no matter what. And nobody was going to stop me. Nothing was going to stop me. And it didn't matter if I died. It didn't matter if I went to jail. Right? So why can't I take the same thing, that same drive and determination, and do something good? So every morning now, I wake up, the first thought I have every single morning is, what can I do for someone else to make their life better? That doesn't mean put it on Facebook or TikTok. That means just do something better for somebody. If you don't normally open the door for somebody, I suggest you do it anyways. It's just respectful. But do it. Open the door for a stranger. Next time you're in a lobby and you're sitting next to someone that you have no idea who they are, I know they tell you and your kid don't talk to strangers, but some strangers aren't that bad to talk to. Okay, if you're in a safe place, it's well lit, there's people around, talk to strangers. Okay, you're going to learn a lot. I've met a lot of really interesting people by just sitting in a lobby. Okay, and I'll tell you this, why? Because your connections are what you guys need. That's how you find that success you're looking for, is connections. You meet people. They know somebody, that person knows somebody. Why am I here today? Does anybody know why I'm here today? Because somehow I got connected with Dustin Roller, right? But that leads into one more thing, and then I'll leave you guys from the boredom, okay? That leads to one more thing, is small doors. So, what small doors means, this is a huge thing for me, and I 100% believe in this. Okay? If you guys have an opportunity that comes up in your life, and it's small, it's very minute, right? Say young man that's doing the yo-yo, okay? Say I came to you next week and said, hey, you know what? I got this birthday party down the road. This kid loves yo-yos. If I paid you $20, would you come down there and do your yo-yo tricks for him? What would your answer be to that? Say yes? Okay. So what you're doing is you're opening a small door of opportunity. And why I say it's small, it might be big to you. You might think $20, heck yeah. But the reason it's a small door of opportunity is you're going to go ahead and take that door, and that's probably going to open up another birthday party, a talent show, a national championship, a world championship. You see what I'm saying? Take those small opportunities, even if you don't make a dime, even if you have to pay to do the opportunity. Take it, because that's going to open up doors for bigger opportunities. I've seen this done on so many occasions, in my own life and other people's lives. So whenever you guys have those opportunities that you think you're too good for, do it. I get opportunities every day now, and I'm super blessed in this, but I get opportunities every day that, okay, I'm just going to give you an example. Yesterday, this happened yesterday. I had the opportunity to paint some windows there in Seymour, at a business, at a restaurant, okay? Now, I tattoo for a living, that's what I do. Okay, now I can sit in my booth where it's warm, I got my TV, you know, I got my music going, got my incense burning, I got vibes. Okay, I got vibes in my spot, but I do, don't I? I got vibes.
Got vibes.
But anyways, I could be nice and cozy in my booth, and to be honest with you, make more money sitting in that warmth in my cozy booth than I did 3 hours standing out in 32-degree weather painting windows. A lot more. You know why? Because that's what I used to do. I used to paint windows for a living several years ago. Now, I didn't make nearly as much, but you know what? I went and did it because this small business said, hey, will you please come paint our windows? We've never had it done before. We would just really enjoy to have your artwork. And I did it for almost nothing, but I did it because it was a small door that opened up years ago for me to be where I am now. And you know what? What's crazy about that? I did this little bitty window, right? Barely made anything off of it, whatever. Enjoyed it. It was fun. Had a good time. That one thing, when I posted it, on my Facebook alone got shared, I don't know how many times, got over 250 likes. Their Facebook got 300 likes in the last 10 hours. Okay? Now, don't live your life by likes. Don't live your status by likes. I'm not saying that. But what I'm telling you is that was exposure. Now, right before I walked in here with Dustin this morning, I had 4 messages from other businesses that want their windows painted. I could have easily said no to that one business that I was telling you about yesterday because it wasn't going to pay me enough, or I was going to be freezing, or I could be sitting in my booth where it's warm. No, that opened up more opportunity. You see what I'm saying? That's the humility part. I've reached my success, and I'm blessed, and I'm grateful for that. but you have to stay humble to keep that. All right, guys? Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm sorry if I bored you. How long is this going on for?
Got about another 20 minutes, right, Mr. Matern? What time of the bus is coming back? Okay, so there's some time.
Thank you guys so much for everything. I will say, just to throw that in here as a little note, like far as tattooing, guys, that's just one of the many avenues that I've been able to do. Tattooing is one of them. That's opened a lot of doors for murals. It's opened doors for design work. I've been able to do labels for beverage companies now, t-shirt design, you name it. I've been able to expand in a lot of different ways. And that was one more thing that I was going to tell you guys was, whatever your guys' passion is that you guys have that we've been talking about, don't ever limit it to that one little thing. So if you're musically inclined and you're a really good singer, that's great. But maybe learn piano while you're at it, because you never know. That could help you in the long run, okay? So make sure you have multiple avenues to go up. All right? Thank you guys, I appreciate you.